This is Lausanne, Switzerland, home of the International Olympic Committee and also start of the 6-day Tour de Romandie. Olympic and Tour de France favourites Cadel Evans, Bradley Wiggins, Mark Cavendish all clash in this first build-up race to the summer. With the Spring Classics in the box, it's time for the 6-day stage race, the Tour de Romandie in Switzerland, to sort out some of the Grand Tour contenders. 2011 Tour de France champion Cadel Evans has won here twice, including last year. The leader of Team BMC will also look to defend his title with the help of his American teammate, TJ Van Garderen. But some of the world's best are also here to challenge. Tour de France hopeful Bradley Wiggins of Team Sky has ridden perfectly so far this year. He'll hope now to send a message with a strong ride this week. And his teammate, the fastest man on two wheels, will flex his sprinting skills as Mark Cavendish fine-tunes his form for the big tours. The 66th edition of the Tour de Romandie is next on the NBC Sports Network. Hello and welcome to the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra as we gaze down overcast skies here over the city of Lausanne. It's the opening prologue time trial of the 66th Tour de Romandie. It's only 2 miles and it's really a short sprint. I'm Phil Liggett, alongside me is Bob Roll. Bob, as this race gets underway, we are just 12 days from the start of the Giro d'Italia, the first Grand Tour. So some of these guys have really got to turn on the style today.
They most certainly do. A tough Tour of Romandie, 6 days of hard racing in the mountains. Give us a chance to see the contenders for this summer's Grand Tours and the Amgen Tour of California that's coming up in May.
Now, 2 riders who will probably go into the July Tour de France as joint favourites are Cadel Evans and Bradley Wiggins, Bob. And this really is a little bit of a dress rehearsal, isn't it?
It is. Cadel Evans won last year in Romandie. He's coming off a sinus infection that derailed his chances in the Ardennes Classics. It'll be interesting to see how well Cadel is going in Tour of Romandie this year. He will square off against British superstar Bradley Wiggins, the leader of Team Sky. Wiggins already successful on the season with a great win in Paris-Nice in a dominating performance in both time trials and the mountain stages there. Bradley Wiggins looking to continue his good form at the Tour of Romandie.
Now, if Cadel Evans does falter, then look to TJ Van Garderen on the same BMC American team here. They are joint favourites. The man from Montana, after his ride at the recent Liège-Bastogne-Liège, could be winning this. There are others too.
And let's not forget about Andreas Kloden, winner of Tour of Romandie in 2008, and Dan Martin on great form for the Garmin squad. He was 6th in Flèche Wallonne, improved by 1 placing in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. The Irishman on the American Garmin squad is the man to watch.
Well, let's have a look first of all at the Lausanne, the prologue course here. It is basically downhill, Bob. It is so short. It is a sprinter's course. It doesn't just favour the pure time trialist.
Yes, indeed. Only 2 miles long, slightly downhill. It actually loses 100 feet in elevation. It's 2 long straightaways connected by a U-turn at the bottom of the course and a finish along the port of Lac Léman, or Lake Geneva in English language.
So they run right along the edge here, down the Avenue de la Tour and on through the Quai de Belgique, or the Belgian quayside. Now, the weather is overcast. We saw it in the Spring Classics. April showers all the time. Dry, though, as we look back earlier today. This was the finish here of Geraint Thomas, who's a recent world champion on the track, having just returned from Melbourne in Australia. An incredibly fast time. 3 minutes and 29 seconds, representing an average speed of 35.74 miles an hour. Not far short of the record for the prologue. Andrew Talansky of the Garmin Barracuda, also good time trialist here, the young American. He's also riding a good time.
Andrew Talansky very rarely out of the top 10, going back to Geraint Thomas's average speed, absolutely flying. And to be 5 seconds faster than Nizzolo as he is at the finish line, the man in second place, that is an incredible ride by Geraint Thomas.
Yeah, some surprises in the early leaderboard there with Giacomo Nizzolo as well. He's only a second-year professional, and he's come over onto the Nissan Trek team from the Leopard Trek team, which ended last year and saw the merge. This is the arrival of Talansky here. That time of Geraint Thomas at 3:29, incredible. But Talansky, who has a habit of turning in very good time trials when he wants to, is running Geraint Thomas reasonably close because Thomas's time is so sensational. That'll go down as a 10-second loss to Geraint Thomas in the overall classification from tomorrow. Nonetheless, I think that's a very, very good ride. Now, those conditions dry there for the early starters today as we go out to the pictures now, and it's still dry at the moment, but the clouds are black. This is the silver medalist in the Beijing Olympics, Gustav Larsson, on course.
Gustav Larsson from the Vacances Soleil squad. He's already a winner in a prologue, or a stage 1 time trial, excuse me, from Paris-Nice. Good ride here by Gustav Larsson.
Well, he should be proud of this one, but it's well outside the time of Geraint Thomas. But nonetheless, it's in 9th place he finishes, 11 seconds down on the time. Dave Zabrisky's time there just gone ahead of the man from the USA. Big effort there by the champion of Sweden.
The time of Andrew Talansky looking very strong. Currently 5th for Talansky, and better than that man Gustav Larsson. So a very good ride by Andrew Talansky.
This is Bauke Mollema, who's looking for a good ride in this year's Tour de France. He had a great ride to finish 4th in the Tour of Spain last year, which is in the month of September, and he would love a big ride in the Tour de France. These time trials, short sprints, steadily downhill, Bob, we're running away all the time. So these times living up. The best time ever recorded, by the way, is by Rick Verbrugge of Belgium a few years ago, 12 years ago in fact, when he averaged 36.58 miles an hour. That time of Geraint Thomas at 35.74 is really quick.
One of the fastest all-time time trials put in by Geraint Thomas so far. Bauke Mollema, dry roads still. Pays Basque just a little bit earlier in the spring. He was 2nd in that time trial and still racing well here in the Tour of Romandie.
4th place for Mollema, 8 seconds off the pace of Geraint Thomas, who's watching them come and go, not far away from the finishing line. Geraint Thomas back in from Melbourne, where he won, or was part of, the winning world record-breaking team pursuit team on the track at the World Championships at the start of this month. The face there about Mollema. Let's go back out on course to the 3-times world time trial champion from Australia. Comes from Canberra, Michael Rogers, but now he's on the Sky team, the same team as Cavendish and Wiggins.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see how the Sky team prepares for the Tour de France and what squad they send. This man, Michael Rogers, could help both of those riders. Michael Rogers could do the lead out for Mark Cavendish, and as well as work in the mountains for Bradley Wiggins.
Well, as he runs up towards the finish here, he's had some good results overall in these small stage races. 4th in the Tour Down Under in Australia, start of the year. Let's see how his time compares. He'll want a good time. Now, Geraint Thomas's teammate is still holding leaderboard here, but that's very good for Michael Rogers. 6 seconds off the pace. The Sky team, they're the top team of the year, are really packing in. There's the standings at the moment. Thomas on top with an incredibly quick time, and so many riders still to come. A couple of surprises just behind. We'll take a break. The Epic Cycle, presented by Michelob Ultra on NBC Sports Network, is brought to you by Michelob Ultra, the superior light beer perfectly balanced for the ultra life. And by Villiers Trestina, 106 years of bicycle-making tradition and innovation, and sponsor of Team Lamprey. And by Competitive Cyclist. For 20% off cycling apparel and accessories, visit competitivecyclist.com/classics and use promo code PRTF20. Well, as we continue now, still on top of the leaderboard is Geraint Thomas with that magnificent time of 3:29. I'm not sure whether the Canadian rider Hejidol can approach that time, Bob, but look at the rain on the camera lens, so the showers are coming. That could make a difference to this race.
That could make a huge difference for the men starting later in the rotation. Rider Hejidol, the Canadian rider on the Garmin-Barracuda squad. Top 10 in the Tour de France in his career, looking to do a really solid Giro d'Italia. That's his main goal for the season. That starts just about a week after this race finishes.
Well, Hejidol's been showing good form in the Classics, which he's just finished, but he's coming in now a little bit down there. 40th place for him. He's losing 17.5 seconds to the time of Geraint Thomas. So the man from Garmin Barracuda, I know the Canadians follow this man around the world. He can expect to ride well in the upcoming Grand Tours, I think. Now, we haven't seen too much of Mark Cavendish this year because he hasn't been really racing since he abandoned in Milan-San Remo. But there he is now in the start house, starting his build-up, Bob, for the Tour de France, a race in which he's won 20 stages on.
20 sprint wins, never won a time trial in the Tour de France. He has, however, won a time trial in his career, and it was right here in the Tour of Romandie way back in 2008. Similar circumstance, that was a 2-kilometer time trial. We have a 3.3-kilometer time trial, or about 2 miles of racing, and Mark Cavendish should have a good chance on today's stage.
He likes these short distances. Being a sprinter, a 2-mile sprint to him, he keep those efforts into the pedal all of the way. He could deliver a very good time. He's already aware of his teammate Geraint Thomas's great time, so he knows what he's challenging. A couple of years, you know, Geraint Thomas and Mark Cavendish were world champions together on the track.
Yes, most certainly they were. Mark Cavendish, also a brand new dad with his girlfriend, Peta Todd. So he's got Delilah at home, not quite cheering yet on the television, but theoretically, his girlfriend will be watching the proceedings today.
Well, to me, he looks as though he's going pretty well here. He just keeps looking up to see where the road is, then puts his head down and makes another big effort. He's nice, solid shoulders. Looking at the road here, it was dry again for the start of Cavendish. The black clouds are blowing in off the lake, which is off to the right shoulder at the moment of Cavendish. As we're now switching to Olivier Zag here, all the French hopes, all the Swiss hopes are with this man, because his only win was the Tour of Lombardy last year.
Well, one race win in his professional career for Olivier Zag, the Swiss rider, and that was the Tour of Lombardy, one of the biggest races of the season, one of the 5 monuments of the sports of cycling, a one-day classic in the fall, the race of the falling leaves.
Now we're switching right to the finishing line. This is Wilco Kelderman coming up here now. He's progressed from 2 years with the nursery squad of Rabobank, and now he gets a crack with the top team. Is he going to find himself a way into the Tour de France? Because this is a very, very good time indeed by Kelderman. He's in the top 10 with that. I'm a little bit surprised, but he's 10 seconds off the speed of Geraint Thomas. He almost fell off there too. So good effort by Wilco Kelderman.
Kelderman, only 21 years of age, one of the big stars of Dutch cycling on the ascendancy. He has already won a prologue in his career in the Tour de l'Ain, so a top 10 finish, that'll be an interesting result. We'll see how the proceedings go, but Wilco Kelderman, he's a man to watch for Dutch cycling fans.
Back out on course here now with Olivier Zag, racing on familiar soil here, and he is a man who will turn on the star. Now, in all honesty, this team does need a result, Radio Shack, doesn't it? Because they've had a forgettable series so far this year, especially in the classics.
The spring campaign did not go well for the Nissan Trek Radio Shack squad, and Johan and the Schleck brothers, the 2 stars of the team, very disappointed with their results in the Ardennes Classic, the Healy Classics in Liège-Bastogne-Liège and Flèche-Wallonne.
In fairness, they lost Spartacus, Fabien Cassar, with that broken collarbone in the Tour de Flanders. But even so, Zog comes in, he's right down there. Next man to finish will be Mark Cavendish. Reports are he is going very, very quickly. He's not very far behind either. He's now on the lake front here, so he's inside the last kilometre. This will be interesting. I saw Mark Cavendish once win a time trial in the Tour of Britain in the centre of London over a similar distance. He can hold his speed for about 2 or 3 miles, then he slows down.
Well, he does most certainly slow down. 200 meters to go. That's where he comes to life. See how Mark Cavendish can do in this time trial. And his teammates, both Mick Rogers and Geraint Thomas, so far dominating the proceedings.
Is he going to get inside of? No, he's not. He's into the top 3. Yes, he is. He's gone inside the top 3. Well done. 6 seconds beating 3:35. That's an incredibly good ride. I wouldn't stand there if I was you. This was an incredibly good ride, Bob, because this is a man who hasn't hardly raced for the last few weeks.
This is a great ride for Mark Cavendish. Question marks before the start of the Tour of Romandie. Where his form would be, I have to say, is pretty good.
Well, that's going to frighten a few people. That time of Mark Cavendish, he gets into the top 3 with that, and there's still plenty of more to come. See you in a moment. By Michelob Ultra will continue with the first full day of racing in the Tour of Romandie. It will be a very unpredictable and hilly stage, and that's tomorrow at 5 Eastern on the NBC Sports Network. Let's go down to the start house now, where we should find, and there he is, Dan Martin, the Irishman on the Garmin Barracuda team. Not a noted time trialist, but knows he's got to stay in touch with the men before we start racing the big races tomorrow.
A winner of a big stage race in his career, the Tour of Poland, a couple of years ago, speaking with General Manager Jonathan Vaughters of the Garmin Barracuda squad. This man, Daniel Martin, is the leader of their team in a race that they hope to do well in, the Tour of Romandie. So we'll see if Jonathan Vaughters' prediction comes true.
Well, as he makes it start, it is still Geraint Thomas, the best time at the finish in 3:29. He started early. In fact, he started a minute behind Giacomo Nizzolo, who holds second place. And if you're also asking who is he, well, we don't really know. He's in his second year as a pro, and he's only ever won one race. He still sits in second. Mark Cavendish holds third. Now, can Dan Martin make an impression on those three? I somehow don't think he will. He's more a climber than a time trialist.
He's much more of a climber than a time trialist, for sure. Also, it's a very short downhill time trial. It's a real speed merchants event today. Dan Martin much better at the big mountain climbs in cycling, and he was 5th in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, so he has good form, but that doesn't necessarily translate to such a short, violent effort as this 2-mile time trial.
Looks to me as though his tyre tracks there are leaving a bit of a shadow on the road, so there is a sort of drizzle in the air just at the moment in Lausanne. It's not completely downhill, as you can see, but because we've got a little rise up here before we swing down to that sharp right-hander that brings him round onto the quayside in Lausanne. A very fast race, though, and let me remind you that Geraint Thomas's average speed at the finish, 35.74 miles an hour, is not far off the world record time set by Rick Verbrugge of Belgium, and that sits at 36.58 miles an hour.
Rick Verbrugge, the team manager of the BMC squad, and he'll be watching his man Cadel Evans in a few riders' time starting this prologue. We'll see how Cadel Evans can do. The conditions here are deteriorating a little bit, so Geraint Thomas's time on dry roads might be very tough to beat for anybody else left in the bike race.
Dan Martin, the Leo birthday boy in August, is on his way down towards the finish. While at the start here, this is Jonathan Castroviejo, who won the prologue last year. Something of a surprise, but he went on to win another time trial later on in Madrid as well.
I can have to admit that I never heard his name until the prologue of last year's Tour of Romandie. John Castroviejo was able to win that less than 1 second faster than the superstar Taylor Phinney from the United States. He was on Euskadi, the men in orange last year. He's moved over to a bit of a bigger squad, the Movistar team now for Castroviejo.
Now, I'll tell you what, Geraint Thomas might be rubbing his hands with glee down at the finish, because you can see the road surface now is getting a little bit slippery, Bob. The rain has wet this surface, and this will not be an easy course in the rain. As we see Dan Martin coming up towards the finish now, he's well outside the time of 3:29 of Geraint Thomas. It's going to be way down the list, this one. He'll have a bit of work to do in the mountains now to get back up into the overall lead. He concedes 22 seconds. I don't think he's anything to worry about, but you never know. These races are often won by seconds.
Well, Geraint Thomas, a very good climber. He's done a number of Grand Tours. Geraint Thomas, A-track specialist, but 31st in the Tour de France. He's no slouch in the mountains. So Geraint Thomas, 22 seconds advantage in just 3.3 kilometers. That's a great ride by Thomas. Dan Martin has some work to do the rest of the week.
But you know that the grease on the surface now, that's probably worth 5 or 6 seconds at least. And now we'll see how it affects the ride here of last year's winner, Castroviejo. He's down on the seaside now, which means he's running through the last kilometre to the line.
Last kilometer there for Castroviejo, looking in that aerodynamic time trial tuck. Castroviejo streaking towards the finish line.
As we turn now to see the champion of Spain, Luis Leon Sanchez, make his bid out of the house. Could be an interesting result for him. He won a stage of Paris-Nice this year, but it wasn't the time trial stage. As we go back down to see now Castroviejo coming in. This is last year's winner, remember, coming home. The clock will start to come on screen as we line up for the finish. He looks as though he's really conscious of the fact he won this race a year ago, Bob. He's driving.
Rain starting to fall now, making for very slipperier conditions for Castroviejo.
Well, he's already gone out of the pan, because 3:29 is Thomas. As we now see Castroviejo line up for the finish here. It is still a pretty good ride, but he's going to be outside the top 11, outside the top 20. 13 seconds the loss. In fact, he's only 9 seconds quicker than Dan Martin in the end.
There's the rain. You can see it starting to build up now on the roads. That's going to make for some very slick conditions. I think you're absolutely right. Geraint Thomas licking his chops now in the finishing house.
Now, Jakob Fuglsang here, he wants a good week, but take a look at the rain now. He's very unlucky, but this is what you can't understand in time trialing, is the weather changes over the course of 4 hours it takes to run the race. Each rider getting a 1 minute advantage to go, and then he has to sit it out and wait. And they haven't chosen where they went here. As the riders continue on, Jakob Fuglsang is starting in just about the worst conditions we have had all day, and this means it'll be advantage Geraint Thomas. the man who's won the Tour de France.
The Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
This is the NBC Sports Network.
The Nissan Ultimate Access Sweepstakes is underway. The first of 3 grand prizes includes a trip to this year's Amgen Tour of California, where you could win exclusive insiders access to Radio Shack Nissan Trek and the chance to meet the team and general manager Johan Brunel. All you need to do is go to nbcsports.com/ultimate access to register and enter the code word Cali. Well, let's get back down to the action. The arrival now of Jakob Fuglsang coming up towards the finishing line. 3:29 to beat. That's well gone. And I think he's paid the price of the rain on the ground here, Fuglsang. He's looking forward to a good Giro d'Italia, and he'll seek to get some more form during the next 6 days. 18 seconds back.
60th place. That's not a great ride by Fuglsang. I think the rain now is having a big effect on the later starters.
Now, the last man to start today will be the defending champion, Cadel Evans. He's the subject of our Road ID athlete profile. Cadel Evans salutes the crowd on the Champs-Élysées. In 2007, he was second. In 2008, he was second. He held the jersey one day last year, but now he is the champion of the Tour de France.
To finally win the Tour de France after a couple of close calls, big relief initially. That's probably the main part of it. I always just thought I just needed a little bit less bad luck and I would have been all right, and that happened in 2011. And yeah, it's still, to be honest, I think months later I'm still coming to terms with it all, and sometimes I sort of have to remind myself, oh, that's right, yeah, we won the Tour last year. But for me, life goes on for the future. I started watching when Indurain started his reign in 1991, and you know, that really planted a seed in my head. And I was just getting into cycling then. I raced mountain bikes until 2001, actually. So it was 10 years till I even raced professional on the road, and another 20 years until I won my first Tour de France. And that, that whole circle was a long circle of dreams and work and application and so on that came together in 2011. You never know what you can do at the Tour until you ride one. It wasn't until 2005 that I rode one, almost sort of 14, 15 years after I started first racing, and so that's a long time. And then at that point I didn't know how good a Tour rider I could be, and I became 8th in my first Tour de France. I thought, well, that wasn't such a bad starting point. And I just kept on believing in myself. Not everyone around me did, but in a team like BMC, everyone did believe in me, and they gave me every opportunity and every bit of assistance they could. And yeah, I think we really deserved that win in 2011.
This is the winning ride of the Tour de France. Bet your boots on it, as Cadel Evans of Australia makes history today.
We prepared very carefully for the time trial with the idea in mind that could possibly be a very, very important moment of the race. I asked if the director, John Lalonde, who was following in the car with his stopwatches and everything. By the end, we had a pretty good idea. We were on a good projection, and we just continued on from there. I think I'm as motivated for the 2012 Tour de France as I have been for any Tour de France. I feel probably in some ways a little bit more confident because, one, we know as a team we can win the Tour. In theory, let's say, more time trialling kilometres will suit me. In the end, you have to be very good, you have to avoid bad luck, and you have to be the best guy there.
What a great story. Cadel Evans there, our Road ID athlete profile. Big test for him this week, though, because he has been a little bit sick, and we'll be anxious to see if he's coming round for the upcoming Tour de France. He's also getting on a little bit in age now. Cadel Evans, 35 years of age. He will be the oldest winner of the Tour if it were to come good for him in the month of July. But it's about now we need to get down to the start house, because we should find now TJ Van Garderen getting in there. Now, if Cadel Evans falters this week, TJ Van Garden's been given the chance to be joint leader of the American BMC team. So this time trial is very important to him.
TJ Van Garderen, the young American on the BMC squad, signed a 3-year deal after the disintegration of the HTC squad, last year's top team in the world. A lot of it is hoped for from TJ Van Garderen. He was born in Tacoma, Washington, grew up in Bozeman, Montana. He started racing bikes at 10 years old. A lot of experience for a brand new professional.
Yes, and although he's only 23 years of age, he spent a lot of time in front of our cameras over the last couple of years. He's enjoyed the American stage races like the Amgen Tour of California, USA Pro Cycling Challenge. He also, Bob, rides very good Prolog time trials, particularly in the races like the Dauphiné Libre, which is just before the Tour de France.
And he got third there a couple of years ago in the overall standing. So TJ Van Garderen, a great climber. He's got the perfect build for a climber, but rather surprisingly, he's also, like you said, exceptional against the clock. That makes him perhaps America's next great hope to win the Tour de France eventually. And he's had a stellar career so far as a young professional. King of the mountain in the Tour de France last summer for a day. And that was the first time an American has had the polka dot jersey since Greg LeMond way back in 1985.
And another rung on the personal ladder of TJ Van Garderen. Everybody is pretty excited about this boy from Montana. He has terrific class in every department. Now, can he show us today that he's up for the fight for the next 5 days that lie ahead after this one? He's hampered a little bit, but he has been given the green light by his team to go in as joint leader of BMC. So really, there's a bit of an infight here between him and the last to go, his teammate, Cadel Evans, because the man that does the faster time today might become the rider they're going to look to for the rest of the week.
Yes, presumably the team would put their support behind the man who rode the best time trial to start the proceedings. So it'll be a bit of a battle between TJ Van Garderen and his own teammate. They might not be able to contest for the stage win against Geraint Thomas, but they will definitely be looking at these results at the dinner table to see who they're going to work for throughout the week's racing. TJ Van Garderen, he's won the white jersey in a number of big stage races, including the Amgen Tour of California. Of course, he was third last year in the USA Pro Cycling Challenge in Colorado, also the white jersey at that. Because of those results, he wanted to do something special in Paris-Nice. He wound up fifth, but I think he was looking for something more. He did win the white jersey in Paris-Nice this spring, but he wanted to win the overall title. He has another stage race here, 6 days in length, to do just exactly that.
The best young riders jersey is the white jersey given to the rookies of the tours, and he certainly has a collection of those over the years, including in the Amgen Tour of California, USA Pro Cycling Challenge, and here in Paris-Nice. That was a rocky old turn there, and that's the benefit or the disadvantage of starting in the rain, Bob, because the riders are frightened of hitting these corners in speed. Now, what's he got to do, given that Geraint Thomas has come in with 3:29?
Well, if he can get anywhere near that within 10 or 15 seconds of Geraint Thomas' time, when you consider the rain that's falling and making for very treacherous conditions for the riders to start at the end of the rotation, that would be a good ride for TJ Van Garderen. If he can get within 10 to 15 seconds of the race leader, Geraint Thomas, he still has a chance to win this race overall.
Well, he's about 45 seconds from the line, give or take a second or two at the moment. He races through this final kilometre. His style reminiscent of Levi Leipheimer, the other American from Santa Rosa, California, out with injury at the moment. And he's a good time trialist, but today it's going to be a big effort required from TJ Van Garderen just to keep in touch with the men on top of the leaderboard, I think.
TJ Van Garderen streaking towards the finish line, all the effort he's capable of, putting it into the pedals right now. Hired by BMC to be one of the teammates of Cadel Evans in the high mountains of the Tour de France, and doing an exceptional time trial here in the rain in the Tour of Romandie.
Yes, in the rain, taking the crowds away, looking at down there from the helicopters. They come up the home straight here on the Quai de Belgique. And now Thomas's time is there for all to see. Van Garden's already slower than that. He's outside the top 20 riders as he comes to the line. And his gap on Geraint Thomas is 14.49 seconds. Is that good or bad, Bob?
15-second loss, considering the conditions, considering it's a quick time trial, a great ride by TJ Van Garderen, in my opinion.
Same situation as it has been for an hour or so now. No change overall, but Cadel Evans and the rest still to come. Next Sunday, the IZOD IndyCar Series continues on the NBC Sports Network. Open wheel racing hits the streets of Brazil for the Sao Paulo Indy 300. Coverage begins 10:30 a.m. Eastern with IndyCar 36, featuring Ryan Hunter-Reay on the NBC Sports Network. Back to the action now on the arrival here of Alex Rasmussen. Now, he's a rider who missed 3 drugs tests in the allotted time last year and was kicked off the HTC High Road squad because of it. But he got back on a technicality and he wasn't suspended. And he's finished there with a very good ride, nearly 9 seconds off 10th place.
10th fastest so far for the man from Denmark, hired by Jonathan Vaughters. A little bit risky, considering he missed 3 out-of-competition doping tests. They're taking a chance on this man, but so far, it's working out.
Now, former winner of this very race, Andreas Klode, one of 4 riders taking part this week who've won at the Romandie before, and he makes his start. And as we said earlier, the Radio Shack team needs a result this week.
Radio Shack has been lacking the results since the injury of their big star for the Spring Classics, Fabian Cancellara, crashing in the Tour of Flanders and breaking his collarbone. And this man might be the one to do it. That's Andreas Kloden, one of the most consistent stage racers in all of cycling. He was the winner of the Pays-Basque stage race last spring. He was also on the podium of Paris-Nice in last year's edition of that race. But so far this year, it has not gone that well. Andreas Kloden out on course with a very wet and rainy stage for his time trial.
Yeah, he's very unlucky because we're getting down towards the end of the start order now. You can see the clouds above and you can see the reflection off the road. Bradley Wiggins is in the start house. There he is. He will be the 6th from the end to go. The last man, of course, is last year's overall winner, Cadel Evans. Now, Wiggins is sitting here knowing he has 3 teammates in the top 4 back at the finish.
Well, he'll be chasing Cavendish, Rogers, and Geraint Thomas, the current leader, all on the same team, and that is a good motivation for Bradley Wiggins. He'll see those results and want to do something special on today's stage.
Bradley Wiggins here has some big decisions in the month of July. He wants to win the Tour de France. He also wants to go back to London and win the Olympic Games. But right now he's thinking of showing a continuance of his great form, having won Paris-Nice in March this year. Can he continue with a win here? And at the moment he's taking on his own teammates. Geraint Thomas is in 1st place, Mark Cavendish is in 3rd, and Michael Rogers in 4th. But this is the man who is king of the time trial. I'm just wondering, it might be a bit short for him.
Bit short for Bradley Wiggins. Historically, he's been a pursuer on the track, and that's a 5-kilometer discipline, so similar in length to today's time trial. But he's become a stage racer now, so he's not quite as sharp in the short time trials as he has been earlier in his career.
Now, if Wiggins isn't going to land it, watch out for this man, Luke Turbo Durbridge. That's his nickname, the Turbo. He is the master of the time trial when he wants to be. He signed this year for the new Australian Green Edge team. It's his first few months as a top pro, as he makes his start to chasing Wiggins. Further up the road, here is Bradley Wiggins, and this is going to be the most interesting time, I think, since we came on air.
Well, he made no bones about how strong he felt earlier this spring, and duly went on to win Paris-Nice. That was a titanic battle with Louis Westra from the Vacances Soleil squad, but Bradley Wiggins overcoming all of the challengers in Paris-Nice on the final time trial on the slopes of the Col d'Ez. That was an uphill time trial. Today is a downhill time trial. Bradley Wiggins is one of the very best in the business at this discipline.
As we now see Roman Kreuziger, one of those 4 men who's won this race in the past as well, coming here to the start line now. And a few deep breaths. He'll start behind Durbridge. And that leaves us then just 4 men still to go here. Denny Menchoff, Ivan Basso, Kwiatkowski and Cadel Evans. Astana are on a high. They had a terrific Spring Classic season with victory in the Amstel Gold Race with Gasparotto, victory in Liège-Bastogne-Liège with Iglinski.
Maxime Iglinski just on Sunday, winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège. A little bit surprising there. Roman Kreuziger, for his part, has won the Tour of Romandie in the past in 2009. Had some mixed fortunes since then. We saw him have some very tough crashes in the Grand Tours, but he's one of the best specialists in the stage races.
Well, as we're watching here, Kreuziger make his way. Now, Fuglsang didn't do a great finish ride there. There's the situation. Kloden himself is slipping away here. He's already outside 7 and descending rapidly as he lines up for the finish. This hasn't been a great ride by Andreas Kloden at all. Radio Shack's woes continue. He loses 16 3/4 seconds and slips in 53rd place. Bradley Wiggins. Now, this is going to be the one we're all interested in. He's about a minute down. He's in the last kilometre here, running up towards the finish. The clock will start to tell us as he swings into the home straight. This is a ride, and Wiggins knows at the moment he's racing against his own teammates.
Well, if he does not get close to the time of his teammate, Geraint Thomas will know that the rain has had a big effect on the later starters in the day. Coming down now, it's alleviated a little bit, but Bradley Wiggins has to take each corner a little bit more slowly. He has to be a lot more gingerly going around those last corners.
Now he will see the time on the board as he makes this sweep into the finishing straight, and at the moment it doesn't look too good to me. Geraint Thomas at 3:29 is already still the leader of this as Wiggins' time goes out a few seconds on Geraint, and he comes across the line in 11th place, but 9 seconds is good enough at the moment, and again it keeps all the Sky Riders in a knot right at the top. Team Sky are flying at the moment. The Sky may not be in the favour of the late starters, but Bradley Wiggins, I think, has to be reasonably pleased with that. The top 3 row, they remain unchanged with the last riders to come. Well, we're looking at the countdown now with just 3 riders left to start here in this prologue of the Tour Романдии. Ivan Basso, and he said by the end of this week he will make his decision whether he will go to the Giro d'Italia, a race he's won in the past. He wants to know just how well he's going.
You need good indications throughout your racing season if you're going to be the designated leader of any team in a Grand Tour, especially an Italian team. The Giro means so much to the Liquigas Cannondale riders. Ivan Basso wants to be absolutely certain that he's on good form before he's even going to start the Giro.
Well, the rain still coming on the camera. That was briefly Roman Kreuziger, but ahead of him is the arrival now of the Australian Luke Durbridge, who's a very good time trial rider. 10.69 seconds off the pace of Geraint Thomas. The rain really has spoilt the party for these late starters, but that's still a good ride by the Aussie.
He is the under-23 world time trialing champion, also 2-time world champ on the track, but it did not happen today for Luke Durbridge. Maybe a little bit disappointed there, hanging his head because of the rain.
But only seconds off the best time of Geraint Thomas at the moment. This is Roman Kreuziger, determination on his face now as he tries to get a couple of more seconds out of that road. Former overall winner of this race.
Former winner 2009, that heralded him as a big star of the future. He's not really confirmed that, though. He's had some bad luck in the Grand Tours, crashing hard and dropping out of last year's Tour de France.
He's lining up for the finish here now, and it hasn't changed for absolutely ages. It's still Geraint Thomas, Nizzolo. That will be a big surprise if he hangs on to finish second in this time trial. Mark Cavendish, Michael Rogers. That's the order at the finish house. He's now lining up for the finish. As he comes into the line, he'll see the times on the clock. He won't like what he sees either, because that 3:29 is distant. In fact, it is nearly 18 seconds off the pace, and 68th for Kreuziger, who goes out in the road race tomorrow. Now, Kwiatkowski has just gone, and we're getting the countdown now for the last man to start. Cadel Evans, the winner of this race in 2006 and last year. Last year, it was a stepping stone to an absolutely brilliant Tour de France. But so far, his build-up this year has not gone as well.
Well, no, most certainly has not. He's been derailed by a sinus infection in the last few days. He dropped out of Liège-Bastogne-Liège and Flèche-Wallonne. He did start the Amstel Gold race, but he was forced to abandon the Amstel Gold about 3/4 of the way through the race and did not start either Flèche-Wallonne or Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He was there to help his teammate Philippe Gilbert, who honestly did not do that well either. So BMC still looking for some results on the season. And Cadel Evans, although he's won the Criterium International, it remains to be seen whether or not he can do something in this year's edition of the Tour of Romandie that he won last year.
Well, a year ago on the Champs-Élysées, it was heady days for the American team and for Cadel Evans. The first victory by the American team in the Tour de France. It was the first victory ever by an Australian in the Tour de France. Now we'll see what he can do in the next couple of minutes. But further up front, 1 minute ahead of Cadel Evans is Michał Kwiatkowski. He's a Polish rider on the Belgian Omega Pharma Quick-Step team. He looks as though he's going pretty well here. His only victory as a professional came about 4 weeks ago in a race in Belgium where he won the Prolog time trial.
He must be something of a specialist. Kwiatkowski on the Omega squad, Omega Quick-Step dominating this year's racing. They've won 26 races already in the season from 10 different riders. Kwiatkowski is one of those, way more than anybody else, more than they won all of last year as 2 separate squads, Quick-Step and the Omega program.
And a big slice of those wins to the indefatigable Tom Bonen in the one-day classic races. He's not here, as we're now seeing Kwiatkowski head up towards the halfway point. So let's go back and see if we can catch up with Cadel Evans. Cadel Evans, to me, is not looking like the man riding the time trial he rode on the penultimate day of the Tour de France, where he absolutely annihilated the lead of Andy Schleck to win the Tour. He doesn't look as fluid, does he?
Well, he wants to take no chances on this descent. Why ruin the rest of your summer because of a slick descent? And that is going to cost Cadel Evans some time.
Now, I'm interested to see this because he looks as though he's going very well. We have no idea what he's doing until he lines up for the finish, but he looks as though he's going extremely well here. Michał Kwiatkowski, as I say, he's only won one. It was the Prolog in the 3-day Tour of West Flanders in Belgium back in March. The only pro race he's won. He turned pro in 2010. As he now lines up, it's a good time. It's not a winning time, but it's going to be a good finish. If he can sprint to the line, he might squeeze. No, he's outside the top 10. But 16th place and only 10 seconds off the pace. I think he'd be pretty happy with that. Quite clearly, Bob, the rain has had its say today for these late starters.
Well, the rain makes the road slippery, but one thing the riders got to watch out for, and that they slip on constantly, is the crosswalks and the center lines in the road. The paint just above the pavement is absolutely slick as snot. It's like trying to pedal your bike across an ice skating rink.
And that's why Cadel Evans is riding just to the left of that centre line, but he's using that as a trajectory up towards the finish now. But it isn't going to be a winning ride, this. He's not going quick enough, and I think that Geraint Thomas is now going to think of himself as the winner here of the Prolog. Cadel Evans wasn't a superstar in the Prolog last year, let's remember, but he went on to win the race overall. The race is never won today. It's a matter of conserving time, and Geraint Thomas is going to go out with a little advantage in the leader's jersey tomorrow on stage 2. This is it now. Cadel Evans, the Tour de France winner, getting back on form for this year's Tour de France, lines up for the finish, but he's a long way off the time of Geraint Thomas as he drops away. That rain has had its words. He loses almost 20 seconds. It will be rounded up to the nearest whole second, so he starts tomorrow 20 seconds behind Geraint Thomas. What do you think?
80th place is pitiful for Cadel Evans. The sinus infection that's been bothering him the last week has got to still be perhaps somewhere up there in the upper respiratory tract. You can see the disappointment on Cadel Evans' face at the finish line.
Well, I'll tell you what, he will not be pleased with that, and it's advantage TJ Van Garderen, his teammate now, when they start tomorrow. I think maybe he'll be the new leader of BMC. But Geraint Thomas, let's not forget, in 2005, this is a man who had his spleen removed when he was in collision with a lorry. Well, as we continue now, there's the result. Geraint Thomas wins over Nizzolo. That's a surprise in Cavendish. We'll interview Geraint Thomas when we come back. The Epic Cycle, presented by Michelob Ultra on NBC Sports Network, is brought to you by Michelob Ultra, the superior light beer perfectly balanced for the ultra life. And by Strava, track your rides and compete against friends, locals and pros. Go to strava.com to get started. And by Competitive Cyclist, for 20% off cycling apparel and accessories, visit competitivecyclist.com/classics and use the promo code PRTF20. Well, the rain is really coming down now, and the skies are black here over Lausanne. But talking of skies, the Sky team have had a wonderful day out, and with Geraint Thomas, they are a Michelob Ultra ride of the day.
It can be none other than Geraint Thomas setting the standard early in the proceeding and defending that lead against all the comers to come. Great ride by Geraint Thomas to win the Prolog of the Tour of Romandie.
That's his first win of the year for Geraint Thomas, and now we can hear from Geraint Thomas at the finish.
Geraint, it's the perfect way to start this Tour de Romandie. Today you beat every rider, but you were also stronger than the cold and the wind and faster than the rain.
Yeah, for sure. It's a nice little win. You know, the team told me I was racing here about 10 days ago, so it was great to come, and I always knew, you know, I'd be up there. And yeah, fortunately, you know, with the weather conditions, it was played into my hands a bit, but, you know, it was only really one corner anyway, so, you know, it's only so much time you can lose in one corner, really.
You are in a very strong team with Mark and Bradley. What's your goal for this Tour de Romandie? What can you expect for yourself?
Oh, myself now is purely a team role. I'll be there to help Cav in the sprints, you know, wherever they come, and then obviously Bradley's going for GC as well, so I'll be there to help him where I can, but coming from the track, it's I don't really have the climbing legs at the minute, but it's all good work before the Giro.
You still have perhaps an eye on the last time trial of the last day?
Maybe, but it's a bit uphill for me and it's a bit long. You know, I've been used to just 4K the last sort of couple of weeks really with the track, so but yeah, we'll give it everything, see what happens.
Thanks a lot, and again, congratulations.
Thanks, James.
It's all about the team, isn't it? Well, we'll see. You can just hear Geraint Thomas's Welsh accent coming through there. There's the victory. 3:29 was his time, a magnificent time, but 5 seconds only ahead of Giacomo Nizzolo. That was a ride and a half for Radio Nissan there. Looking further down the list here, Stef Clement, the former champion of Holland, in 8th place. Alex Rasmussen losing 9 seconds. He completes the top 10 in the race here. Bradley Wiggins 11th, but only 9 seconds. I still think he's the leader of the Sky Pro cycling team. Andrew Talansky, Bob, what a great ride.
Talansky 13th on the stage, only 13 seconds down, but that will be the first leader's jersey of this year's Tour of Romandie. Geraint Thomas putting his track speed to good work. He just won a world title a couple of weeks ago in Melbourne, Australia. He's come back to the continent and he dominated the time trial proceedings to be 5 seconds ahead of second place in such a short time trial. That's a great indication that Geraint Thomas, not only does he have some leg speed, he has some great fitness as well.
Well, Geraint Thomas now will be the first rider to defend that yellow jersey when he goes out on stage 1. And let me remind you, the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra will continue tomorrow. The time is 5 Eastern, and it'll be the first full day of racing on the open highways for the Tour of Romandie, with Geraint Thomas in the yellow jersey. Don't forget, for a full schedule, log on to NBCsports.com and learn all about our cycling coverage. Well done to